Hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Bill of Rights. We ended our conversation the other day on the ending of the Constitutional Convention and the fight for ratification between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. We remember from that conversation that the Federalists, in order to convince the Anti-Federalists to ratify the new Constitution, they had promised the Anti-Federalists that they would put in a Bill of Rights, or a list of individual freedoms, into the Constitution through the amendment process. So that's where we're at now. The Constitution has been ratified, and now these founding fathers are working on coming up with a Bill of Rights. And this is what ultimately is presented and passed. So we're going to go through these. You should have a spreadsheet that looks like this. What I would ask is that you would split the screen, and then in this column D you would take any notes that you feel necessary. So let's go ahead and get started. So the First Amendment actually has 5 separate freedoms in it, and these are probably some of the most well-known amendments here in the First Amendment. So let's start through number 1, freedom of religion. Now, in freedom of religion, there is 2 clauses. There's an establishment clause that states the government can't favor one religion over another, meaning that our national government doesn't have the right to say Christianity is our national religion, or we're going to be now a nation that practices Buddhism. All right. So, Amendment 1 protects us as individual citizens, that our government can't choose one religion over another. The second clause in this is the exercise clause. This deals with individuals' freedoms, saying that people can choose which religion they want to follow, or follow no religion at all. Now, the second freedom in Amendment 1 is the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech actually can and is limited. This is not a blank check that you can say whatever you want, wherever you want. I'm sure some of you already know this from both your parents and also being here at school, is you can't say whatever you want, whenever you want. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled that it kind of has a landmark case where it says specifically you can't run into a crowded theater and yell fire, because this would create panic without the crowd and possibly injure someone. So this also means that you can't lie about someone. This is called slander. So if you lie, that is not protected under freedom of speech. The third part, or the third freedom in the First Amendment, is the freedom of the press. Again, this was one of the rights that was taken away from the colonists by Great Britain, so our founding fathers made sure that this was put into our Bill of Rights. The freedom of the press to be able to print whatever is true, even if it is damaging to someone's reputation. As long as the facts are correct, the newspapers have the right to print it. Alright. The next freedom is the freedom to peacefully assemble. So peacefully assemble means to gather in a group of people, as long as it's peaceful. So if you wanted to have a protest or a rally, you have that freedom to be able to gather in support or to rally against a concept or a person, as long as it's peaceful. Now, if your assembly breaks out into a riot, then obviously the police have the right and the ability to break that assembly up. The next is the freedom to petition the government for change. So this is your freedom to go to the government, hey, and say, you know what, we would like something to be changed within our government, and they're not going to throw you in jail for asking for a change. Again, this was something under British rule, where the citizens felt like they had no say in government, that they couldn't ask for this change or they were going to get punished. So the freedom to petition the government for change is a direct result of the American Revolution. Alright, so those are the 5. You have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to peacefully assemble, and freedom to petition the government for change. Alright, so those are the 5 in the First Amendment. Let's start going through the rest. Number 2, this is a very controversial issue today that we see come up quite often. Number 2 is your right to bear arms. Now, just like freedom of speech, the right to bear arms is not a blank check. Gun ownership can and is limited. You can't walk around with a fully automatic rifle. You have to be a certain age to own a gun. So there are ways that the government can restrict your right to bear arms, but this is an ongoing battle, and the Second Amendment has stood for quite a long time our right to own firearms. Number 3 is no quartering of soldiers. Again, another Bill of Rights amendment that comes directly from the American Revolution, when the British required the citizens of Boston to house their soldiers. So the Third Amendment says that citizens don't have to house soldiers in private homes or property without the permission of the owner. So if the National Guard would come in for a disaster here in our area, the United States couldn't quarter their soldiers or house them on your property without your permission. Now, obviously, if they came and said, hey, can we borrow the pasture field and set up our tents, and you said sure, then there's no problem. But they can't just say, hey, we're taking over your farm for the next 3 weeks. All right, number 4. Number 4 deals with unreasonable searches and seizures. So this protects citizens' property and documents. This is basically saying that the police need a search warrant to search your private property, your person, or your documents. And in order to get that search warrant, they have to have some type of evidence that you broke a law. Now, this comes directly from the British, their writs of assistance, their blank search warrants that they were looking for smuggled goods. So number 4 protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures. An example of this might be a police officer walks up to your car, he asks to search your vehicle. You have the right to say no. Now, if the police officer sees something illegal, maybe a firearm or an open container of beer in your car, and he asks to search your car, he has reasonable suspicion or evidence that you broke a law. All right, so 5 has several here. The first one in 5 that we're going to deal with is double jeopardy. Double jeopardy is saying that you can't be tried twice for the same crime. So if you go to trial, let's say for murder, and they find you innocent, the jury finds you innocent, the government can't keep trying you until they find a jury that will finally convict you. So they have the burden of proof to show that you committed this crime beyond a reasonable doubt, and they only have a one-shot deal at it. There was a very famous movie called Double Jeopardy where a husband faked his death, framed his wife. She was tried and convicted of murder. She served her time, got out of prison on parole. She later found out about this blackmail that her husband had committed and basically hunted him down and shot him. And so because of double jeopardy, she was already tried and convicted of this crime, so she couldn't be tried again for it. So just a little interesting side note of a movie that was created off of that amendment. All right, so this is another one in 5. You can't be forced to be a witness against yourself. So if you're put on trial, the prosecution, the people who are trying to convict you of a crime, can't force you to take the witness stand and testify against yourself. This is oftentimes you'll hear in movies like the defendant saying, well, I plead the fifth. Okay, this means he's not going to take the witness stand and be a witness in his own trial. Now, this also actually covers your spouse. Okay, your spouse can't be forced to testify against you. So you or your spouse don't have to testify against yourself in the trial. Another one here in 5 is a term called eminent domain. Eminent domain is the process of the government being able to take private property for public use, but the staple here is they have to pay fair market value for their property. Now, eminent domain is another one of those that is kind of a sticky subject because people don't like the government coming in and forcefully taking your property. Now, an example that I use here is when they put in the new 39. When they put put in the road between Sherwood Creek and Dover, that new 39, that was all once held private property. So the government came in and they actually paid those residents for the property that they were going to use. Now, once that they deem that this property is going to be used for the public good, the private citizen can't turn them down. So they can't come in and say, oh, I don't want to sell, or this house has been in my family for generations, I don't want to give it up. If the government deems that it's for the public good, they have to pay you fair market value, but you can't turn them down. You can't say, no, I'm not going to sell. Alright, so on to number 6. Number 6 again is I think our last multiple, or no, this is not our last multiple, one of our last multiples. 6 gives, this is kind of the rights of the accused. The right of accused person, you have the right to a speedy public trial, so they can't hold you in jail for years upon years before they put you on trial. They have to make it a speedy trial. The next is you have to be informed of the charges. The police can't just arrest you and throw you in jail without telling you why you're being thrown in jail. They have to formally charge you with a crime before they arrest you. Again, these are things that come out of the British rule over the colonies, where people were being held in prison without being put on trial. They weren't being informed of what they did wrong. The next is your right to a lawyer. So you do not have to stand trial without a lawyer. If you can't afford one, one's going to be given to you. Now, a lot of these in here sound like something you hear from Miranda rights. And the Miranda rights was another separate case where the Supreme Court said the police had to inform the people of their rights, the rights of the accused, before they arrested them. Alright, number 7 is a trial by jury. So in court cases that deal with more than $20, you as the person being accused have the right to request a jury trial. You could also have the judge hear it just for himself, or you have the right under the 7th Amendment to have a jury trial. Now 8 is our last multiple amendment. 8 deals with that people who are charged with a crime. So no excessive bail or fines. So no excessive bail. Bail is the money that you pay in order to basically get out of jail before your trial. So in our system, you're considered innocent until proven guilty. So say you get arrested for a crime, they charge you with the crime, you can pay money to get out of jail before your trial. Now, after your trial, if you get found guilty and you get put in jail, well, there's no bail there. Now, bail is given back. So if you get a $1,000 bail, you're paid the $1,000, but that's kind of your $1,000 promise that you're going to show up for the trial. So no excessive bail. So if you, I don't know, stole $10 worth of merchandise from a store, you get charged with this crime, they can't make your bail $1 million to get out of jail. So no excessive bails or fines. So again, you stole $10, they can't sentence you to death. Another one of 8 is no cruel or unusual punishment. This again comes into play a lot with the United States and their view on the death sentence. So no cruel or unusual punishment. This is usually what people on death row claim or point to, trying to not go through with their execution. This is a big one here in Ohio with the lethal injection right now. Alright, 9, the people have more rights than are listed. So 9 is saying, you know what, we can't list everything, but you have rights. You have freedoms to choose, you know, what career you want to go into. You have the right to choose where you live, or you know, how many kids you're going to have. You know, there's nothing specified in the amendments. So this is our kind of our freedom of choice amendment. And number 10, people, the rights of the people in the states. This is just saying that the rights are not given to the federal government or given to the state. We've talked about this with the reserved powers and delegated powers. All right. If you have any questions, please make sure that you ask, and if you're unclear on one, make sure you go back in the video and rewatch it.